Good afternoon, everyone. Andy Jacob here with DotCom Magazine. Welcome to the show. This is going to be one that you definitely want to watch the entire way through because I've got Erik Rind here. Erik is a thought leader, and he is the CEO of ImagineBC, and we're going to be talking about something very important today about what Erik is working on with his crew and with his thought leaders that he works with. And this is going to be an unbelievable interview. You do not want to miss it because we're going to be talking about your personal data and blockchain technology. So Erik, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me on, Andy.
Awesome. So Erik, at a very high level, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. And let's just talk about what you're doing at ImagineBC for all the people that are very interested in protecting their data and how you propose that we're going to be doing this in the future.
Yeah, sure. And you use an interesting word there, Andy, because there's the word protection of data, and we at ImagineBC, we actually don't like to use that word. And that's not to say that we don't think your data should be protected, because it should. But the truth is, if you're as old as me, it's never going to happen. My data's out there, and it's never coming back. So forget protection. We're right now really focused on control of our data. And the next step is, if I can get control of it, then shouldn't I be fairly compensated for the use of it? So ImagineBC is about creating a technical platform that will allow every individual to both control and hopefully monetize their data.
That's amazing. So we're all thinking about our data and we're all worried about our data. And you're saying the data is already out there, but why should all these big companies probably be allowed to use your data without compensating the individual? Is that where you're going with this idea?
Exactly. In fact, you touch on what's called the privacy paradox. When we started 2 years ago, nobody even thought about their data. And then came Cambridge Analytica, and it was like, whoa, you're doing what with our data? You're affecting the outcome of political, England's leaving the European Union because of our data. I mean, and we won't get started with our current president, so we'll pick on the British. But, right, so that shone a light. We had actually started even before that. And the answer is no, they shouldn't benefit from it, right? It's our information. I mean, there's a lot, and what they'll tell you is, oh, but we're providing you a service, and many of their services are free. But when you look at the kind of money that they're making from our data, the exchange of that free service from what they're making for our data ceased being fair a long, long time ago.
That's very interesting. We have a lot of people that probably have never even thought of this before, but now that you're saying it out loud, it's probably getting them thinking about, hey, I've got this data out there. All the big companies are using my data. They're telling me that they're using it because they're offering me a free service, but what's really happening is they're just making a fortune off of people's individual data. Is that sort of the elevator pitch, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, if you looked into Facebook's annual report, they almost have one revenue line item: advertising revenue. I mean, what else? They provide a free service so you can post, pictures of your grandchildren. But guess what they do with all of that? They sell it to third parties, and they're monetizing it, and you're receiving nowhere near fair value for the amount of information you're providing to them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and what really got us going was, yes, it's really important that we receive fair value. But if you look at what's going on in the world today, and we're always, thought leaders or technologists like myself, I'm always trying to look down the highway. And what really got me looking was the birth of my grandson, which is now I'm looking even further, right? What's the world for my grandson going to look like in 20 years when he starts to become an adult? And I'm thinking to myself, it's pretty sad looking. There's going to be no job market, right? You're going to have the very, very rich, and they're going to be the people who are actually involved in teaching the robots. And then there's going to be robots doing everything, and there's going to be this massive unemployment. And so in the political realm, you start hearing about UBI, Universal Basic Income. And without getting into whether that is good or not, the truth of the matter is, I don't think it's necessary, because we almost have this honeypot of money out there called universal basic data income. right? Just start paying me fair value for my data, the use of my data, and I don't need the government to write me a check.
Well, that's very interesting. And I can see just from talking to you for the few minutes that we've been on the show, Erik, why you're involved with so many, high level people, and why you have thought leadership and have brainstorming sessions with people that are on a much different level than many others. Erik, if I was sort of to think about ImagineBC and think about how you're going to accomplish this task, can you give us a high level look at how this actually becomes a reality?
Sure. So what we've done is we've created, in the blockchain world, you like to use the word ecosystem. That's the new word. So we've created an ecosystem where we'd like to say we've created a balanced ecosystem. And by that, I mean there's three major players in the ecosystem. There's the marketers, the advertisers, the retailers. They want to reach you. They want to sell you goods. And amazingly, we actually hired a behavioral science firm to do a lot of research for us because we're going into a world we weren't really familiar with. And they came back and said, look, people don't mind being advertised to as long as it's for two reasons. It's valuable to them, and they think they're getting fair compensation for their time that they're putting into whatever's going on. So you have these marketers and retailers, and then you have the consumer, who, as I just said, they don't mind being advertised to as long as there's value. And then there's a subset of consumer, we call them the content providers. Think of them as the YouTube community. People who are putting up free content, spending 50 hours a week to get it, keep it fresh, and receiving nowhere near fair value for the time they're putting in. So those are the three actors in our ecosystem. So what we've done is created a technical platform where we've created a marketplace of exchange of value. So let's take a simple example. Let's say a Pepsi-Cola decides they want to run an advertisement to everybody in the community like they do on television, right? And they say, look, in the ImagineBC community, we're willing to spend 25 cents per person for them to watch our ad. So that comes in, and our person now, unlike today's environment, which is pretty creepy, where ads pop up on your phone and you see these things appearing as you're trying to watch content, we've bifurcated that. And we've said the consumption of ads is for value and for me to increase income, receive fair value for the time I spend watching the ad. And then what we hope is you now have this wholly new income source that you'll understand that getting free content from content providers is also not fair. So just like you're being compensated to watch an ad, you should compensate them for the content. But we make it simple. It becomes a barter. You've received and you give. So if somebody comes in from the other side and says, hey, I'm charging 25 cents for a tip and trick, think of the beauty of this. Oh, you need 25 cents. I'll go watch that ad from Pepsi because I remember they're willing to pay me 25 cents to watch an ad. So I watch the ad, take the 25 cents, give it to you. Everybody's happy, right? This is a win-win-win. Who's not happy? Facebook isn't happy. But nobody's going to cry for Facebook or Google.
So I love the idea. It's very, very intriguing. Will the consumer, let's say I'm the one that wants to be served up that Pepsi ad, will I actually be able to take some of the dollars off the table as well, besides just bartering it? I will be.
Absolutely. And in fact, we're working with a group called Radical Exchange, which have Glenn Weil and Jaron Lanier in there. And they've done some research, and their research says that your personal data could be worth as much as $20,000 a year. That's a big number. I've been doing this for 2 years now. I'm not quite as high as them. I fall more in the $10,000 to $12,000 range. But let me tell you something. There's no way you're going to buy $12,000 worth of content. So, right, even after you've paid fair value for all the content that you want, it's not going to end up being $12,000 a year. So you're still going to end up on the positive side, and you can extract the money out of our ecosystem into true dollars, put it into your bank account, put it onto a MasterCard debit card, and go spend it, for important things, electric bill, groceries.
That's amazing. So we're talking about almost a brand new world that you're creating. So
it's certainly a new economy, or I'm a history major. And I actually like to say it's an old economy in the sense that if you go back about 1,200 years, right? I mean, way back, where you used to be born, live, and die in 2 square miles. So you knew everybody in town. Everybody knew everybody else. So if you needed something, like say you traded a chicken for a goat, and if you trusted one another, you did it. You didn't need what were called third parties. You didn't need lawyers. You didn't need accounting firms. You didn't need banks. You bartered, right? We're actually heading back there. Blockchain is the enabling technology that allows us to create a trust economy to get back to a barter system and thereby disintermediate third parties. The only difference is now I could do it in a 25,000 mile circumference world, thanks to the internet.
That's amazing. So in this world, ImagineBC is going to be collecting an awful lot of data, right?
Yeah, and interesting. We don't like to use the word collecting because our users choose how much they want to provide about themselves. We act as an agent on their behalf. We will never collect and sell their data. All we'll do is take the data they have and look for as many markets as possible, right? Now, what we may do is say, hey, look, because you haven't provided, let's say, your zip code yet, you missed out on maybe 30 hours of opportunities last week. So you may think about wanting to put it in. But we always leave our members in complete control of how much of their data they want to share. Even location data on their phone. Yes, it's there, it's accessible, and like every other company, you want to go after it, right? And it's so easy to get. It is just so easy to collect that data off of that device. But we will only collect it, store it inside their wallet, and then let them know there's a market for it and let them make the decision if they want to share it or not.
And how do the ads get served up?
Just through your handheld or on the web, and every day you'll see how many opportunities you have. You'll be saying how much each one's worth, how much each time, and it's a time and money thing. Oh, this is going to pay me 50 cents to do, whatever. In fact, it was funny. My wife and I don't know where you're located, but we're here in DC, and DC has some of the largest metro station escalators like in the world. Okay. And we were actually going down the Bethesda one, which is stupidly long. It actually takes about 4 minutes if you're not walking it. So she and I were going down, and we watched literally about, this is before COVID, of course, 20 people coming up the escalator, single file, all with their faces in their phone. And I said to my wife, you know what? With ImagineBC, they could have paid for their metro ride from bottom to top.
That's right.
Right? It's an app. You'll come in, you'll look at what's there. Here's some opportunities to earn. You'll choose whether you want to do them and move on. And if you're like the content side, you'll spend as much time as you want on the content side. And we assume that there'll be times where people will only be on the earnings side.
That's very interesting. Now, what comes to mind is people still watch TV. So I don't know with the digital TV opportunity, if with your system, maybe one day I'll be watching a television program, a football game, and up will come some commercials that I'm actually getting paid for. Is that sort of what you're envisioning here?
Think of it close, but think of it kind of, again, bifurcated. Rather than the commercial coming up during the game will be streamed. The New York Giants or the Washington Redskins will now have their own streaming service to watch their games. And it's going to cost you X. And you're going to say, but I don't have X. But I can go into the app and through watching a bunch of ads or filling out a surveys or participating in a focus group, I can earn X and pay for my subscription to watch the Giants, Redskins, whoever you want to watch.
And all that data that you put into the app will be collected so that so that the big brain computer will know what to serve up to you in a meaningful way.
Correct. In fact, we use the same technologies that Google and Facebook use, AI/ML. The difference is where they use it on the behalf of themselves and their shareholders, we're using it on behalf of you. So for every dollar that gets injected into the system, ImagineBC only takes 10 cents of that. 90% gets distributed amongst our members.
That's the way ImagineBC makes the money then.
We make, and it's very transparent, 10% of any transaction for help. We create the market for you. We take a flat 10% off for whatever the cost is, but we don't set the costs.
Right.
Our members set the costs. We simply help make a market and then we take 10% of that. So if it would cost a penny, we would take 10 cents of a penny. If it was $1, we would take 10 cents. But $235 billion spent in advertising last year on our data. We would keep 10% of that, and 90% of that would go back to the people. That's a lot of money back to the people.
Yeah, that seems very fair because now people are making money with their own data. So have you started, the process of building out the infrastructure with this, or are you still in the stage where, you're putting, one foot in front of the other prior to building out what I would think would be a pretty big infrastructure for this?
It is pretty big. As I said, we've been working on it for about a little over 2 years now, but we are at the actual, really at the very launch. We're launching what we call a donation challenge this very week. So it's a social media influencers that we're working with, 52 Thursdays. They're working with a nonprofit called Fueling the Fearless, and we're sponsoring a donation challenge between the two influencers to see who can raise more money. And for each person that registers, we're also chipping $1 in for that. For each person that downloads the app and logs into Fueling the Fearless. So that's a first step towards building a community. We've got a lot of really interesting channel launches, different hosts. We got lots of people in the sports field. We've got a really interesting opportunity with a group that's doing original content that could disrupt the Hollywood machine, right? So what they're doing is they're sponsoring writing contests each month, so young screenwriters can send their scripts in, and they're going to pick a winner, and then they're going to produce that. So we'll have access to that produced content, but all the scripts that came in will actually now, through our app, we'll have an opportunity, because we'll look to crowdfund them. Our members can look to become the executive producers of these shows. So imagine now every member of ImagineBC in the evenings could take the app and start looking through and reading scripts and saying, nah, don't like that one. Nah, oh, I like this one. I'll put $1 into that one. I might make 10. Right?
Right. That's really interesting, Erik. So if I look at online right now, or I go to my phone, am I going to find the ImagineBC app in there, Erik?
Yes. You'll find it on the Apple Store and the Google Store. We are an invitation-only community, but if you don't happen to have a code from somebody who's already a member, there's a little tap here, and you can use the code from one of our national nonprofit partners, National Network to End Domestic Violence, Toys for Tots, Concerts for Hope, and Running Start are all national nonprofits we work with, and you can use their code, and they'll essentially invite you in.
That's wonderful. So you're really hitting the hammer on the head for a number of different sort of lanes. One, you're doing something that probably nobody has even thought of before, which is helping people get paid to have ads served up to them based on their own data. And it sounds like you're also kind of melding in some charitable opportunities for some charities, which I love to hear. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, in fact, it becomes a nature of how we design the economy in our system. Because of the way $1 is split, right? We said we take 10%, 70% goes to the seller, that's 80%. Then the other is split between who referred the buyer and who referred the seller. But if you take a large company like Pepsi, nobody invited them in. They came because they saw the value of advertising to our community. So you take that percentage that has to be allocated, and of course the obvious thing is, my CFO would tell me, we're taking it. The truth is we can't, because our blockchain smart contract doesn't even allow us to take it. We can never take more than 10%. So the question became, what do you do with that unallocated 10%? And it was I wish I could say it was me, but it was actually my wife who said, dummy, give it to charity. And like, wow, right? So if you go back to that example, $235 billion in advertising, if every dollar came through ImagineBC, no less than $23.5 billion would go to charities.
Wow, that's incredible.
Automatically,
that's
without pushing. And then I love the concept so much, we extended it through the whole app, because we had the situation where, hey, you could have people who are making a few extra $100 or even an extra $1,000. It's not worth me to watch a bunch of ads. I get it. You don't need the money, right? You're comfortable, but you probably have a social cause who the $1,000 would be very beneficial to. So we made it very easy for a member to say, hey, I'll split any part of the money I earn, give me part, and send a part to a social cause I'm interested in.
Wow, that is really ticking all the boxes and really changing the world in a really, really positive way, Erik. Let me ask you a question. So for someone watching this that really doesn't understand blockchain technology, maybe has heard about it, of course, through the media, but still doesn't understand it well. If they go into ImagineBC right now and they download the app either on the iOS store or on Apple, is it simple to kind of get through and understand, or are you still working through that process, sort of the cycle to explain what's going on here?
It's a great question. And the answer to that is we probably redesigned the app 7 times dealing with this issue. So with control comes responsibility. Remember that, right? It's never going to be totally as easy, but totally easy means all your data is exposed. So by introducing blockchain, what happens is when you enter our system, you'll get a pop-up that says, hey, we're going to create your blockchain wallet. All you've got to do is you provide an email address primarily so we can then send you your key. That's the important thing, right? If you think of blockchain in a physical sense, we've created a house for you in the ether, right? You have your own house and you get the key. As long as you don't give that key to anybody, nobody's getting into your house. and that even means ImagineBC. So the 2 times you'll see where the wallet comes into play in our app. Once where we say, hey, it's time to create your wallet. The next is whenever you do something that involves the release of your information, your financial information, your private information, we ask you to enter that key because we don't have it. We don't have your data. So we've found a market, but you have to release it. Now, we've made it fairly easy by encrypting that key and hashing it onto your device so you don't have to always remember it, but you have to, we can't go get it. And where it really comes in, this is so interesting, because in today's world, when you subscribe to something, it's always auto renewal, and your credit card just keeps getting hit until one day you remember, I don't even do this anymore, right? How much money have you wasted? That's because they have your financial data. In our world, every month we have to go back and say, do you want to renew? Because we don't have your financial data. Wow. You have to proactively say, yes, I'm ready to release it again. So those are subtle ways you'll see the difference, but they're important distinctions about it. And better, to be quite honest.
That's amazing, Erik. So if I go in, and I'm sure people seeing this show will go in and download the app and register and get their special key for the blockchain. After we do that, will there be some opportunities for us to start earning some revenue from our data?
Not yet, because there's a little bit of a chicken and egg going on, right?
Okay.
So what there will be is there's lots of fun content. So hopefully you can do that. Obviously, if there's a social cause, another thing about the social cause is we don't take anything from that. So unlike a Patreon who takes a little piece of the action, that's not, we only take money when we've earned you money. You making a donation, we haven't earned you anything, so we just act as a pass-through there. 100% will go. So we're a better platform to donate money to a social cause. But we have to get our community built up to a volume in the tens of thousands before, I mean, we have people ready to come in to start advertising, but until the community's larger. So we ask people to come in, check out the content. Lots of it's free right now. Be patient, but be active with it, because we're working together here. We're a labor union, right? We're all against capital, which in this case is Google and Facebook. It's not going to happen overnight, just like unions didn't either.
That's awesome. So you have many relationships that are brewing, and I'm sure those are going to start popping as this goes along. And whether they're big relationships or small, they'll all be put into the ImagineBC blockchain app. So people that register now will have the opportunity to sort of be part of a movement, if you will, an early mover movement. And this movement is about taking your data and getting paid for your data, which is remarkable. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people, Erik.
Right. And, you know, it's a free, everything's free, right? It's a free app. So what does it hurt? Download it, put it on your phone, register, check it every now and then, and eventually opportunities will start to come in. We're here for the long term. my other company is extremely profitable. It's funding this. I am not worried about keeping my lights on. I've not had to take venture capital money, so I don't have to worry about VCs telling me to maximize profit, which, we're all interested in that. So, but still, we're here for the long term. We're going to grind it out because, as you said, this is a movement more than it is a company.
I love it. Erik Rind is going to do the grind.
There you go.
I love it. Listen, this is very fascinating. I'm sure there's people that are going to go run it to the App Store and take a look at this immediately. It's ImagineBC. Erik Rind is the CEO and founder. If people are watching this, Erik, and they want to contact you maybe for some other types of discussions besides just being a participant in this very new and thoughtful idea, how do they get a hold of you?
Just email me at erind@imaginebc.net. And honestly, we all have something of value. And if you think about it, that means you might be willing to host a channel and see if you could turn it into a side hustle or maybe even a full hustle.
I love it. I love it. This has really been eye-opening. I've never heard anything like this. And I know that you're on the cutting edge of something here with an idea that potentially could change the entire landscape of how we interact and how we participate in media and advertising. So I want to thank you so much, Erik, for coming on the show today. It's been a real delight, and congratulations on this technology platform.
Thanks, Andy. Really appreciate outlets like you giving us time to speak about what we're doing.
Thank you, Erik.